Hello, everyone. Sorry for a little bit of the delay. My name is Tim Sherwood. I'm Vice President of Business Development for Mobility and IoT Solutions at Tata Communications, and I'm delighted to be part of the team to be sharing with you over the next 30 minutes or so how the use of the evolution of the embedded SIM standards can kickstart a revolution in terms of the business model for operators and vendors alike in the IoT and end-to-end space. As many of you likely know, SMA has been developing embedded SIM standards for around a decade. While many benefits have been touted over the years with great fanfare and hopes and promises, one of the greatest is the specification that it offers a single de facto means for the remote provisioning and management of machine-to-machine equipment and connected objects around the world. We believe this will prove to be a key factor in meeting the needs of a fast-growing IoT market. GSMA Intelligence forecasts the number of licensed cellular IoT connections alone will grow from 600 million in 2017 to just over 3 billion in 2025. Which creates some obvious challenges in terms of provisioning and managing those devices at scale around the world. At present, any changes to the configuration of IoT devices connectivity requires manual intervention by care and maintenance staff, which is a costly, time-consuming process which slows down production, can delay and ruin the return on investment that enterprises and OEMs are looking for at the outset of their IoT initiatives. IoT device manufacturers currently face a situation where they must configure devices as they are being produced, which is challenging in units which operate across multiple markets. Operators also face challenges in terms of selling connectivity to companies deploying IoT devices, because physical SIM cards mean those businesses are effectively locked into a particular operator in a particular market. These factors are driving keen interest and activity around how to deploy and utilize embedded SIMs and modules which are installed in devices at the point of manufacture and then remotely provisioned according to the customer's choice of mobile operator. With myself, Olivier Perron is going to be presenting some of our thoughts between Infineon and Tata Communication about how the industry needs to collaborate and cooperate to really accelerate the adoption and realization of the promise that eSIM delivers. So, Olivier, maybe just say a quick hello.
Hello. I'm Olivier from Infineon.
And Olivier is the Business Development Senior Manager for Mobile Security at Infineon, bringing more than 18 years of experience to the smart card industry for the digital security solution divisions of Infineon. As I mentioned, my name is Tim Sherwood, and I'm responsible for helping to shape and drive Tata Communications' global strategy for mobility and IoT services. With that, we'll jump into the presentation where we'll share some insights and thoughts around the benefits, the promise of eSIM, and really start to get into ways in which the industry can cooperate and collaborate to deliver on the promise. So I spoke a little bit about why now. We're definitely seeing a shift in interest ramping up in the eSIM. We talked a little bit about the growth opportunities that GSMA Intelligence is looking at, as well as a hardening of the standards and approach to that the industry is driving towards how to support embedded SIM connectivity requirements and capabilities. Just a rough outline of the agenda for today. We'll be talking through the opportunities and the benefits, applications and requirements, a little bit of a comparison and contrast of the classic SIM, the pluggable plastic approach versus the eSIM, how we believe there's more to be done to unlock the eSIM potential, some of the ways in which Infineon and Tata Communications are working together, and then we'll end with a few use cases and open up for some question and answers. So with that, I'll hand it over to Olivier to cover some of the first half of the opportunities around the opportunities and benefits associated with the eSIM.
Thank you, Tim. So hello everyone, and for those of you just joining us, warm welcome. So as you can see on that graph published by IHS, there is a strong inflection point for growth in eSIM shipments in 2018. So the question we may ask ourselves is, why this is happening now? Some say that this deployment is certainly helped by the fact that the GSMA eSIM standard is now mature. But this will certainly also be helped by the release of the new Apple consumer devices or the always connected PCs or Surface devices from Microsoft and other manufacturers. Nevertheless, the increase in eSIM shipments is also fueled by the adoption in diverse segments such as wearable and handset PCs, and we also see a steady growth in the M2M field, as depicted here, in the kind of Olympic blue shade. So for those who still use a monochrome monitor, this is the lower graph showing more than 250 million eSIM chips by 2021. So having that in mind, when we look at the different applications and segments that are represented here in icons, you will find some example of vertical markets requiring broad cellular connectivity. We strongly believe that the eSIM is paving the way to many new applications and business opportunities in different markets. Indeed, the eSIM, with its remote SIM provisioning capability, is expected to supersede the well-known SIM card in many existing devices and also new devices by bringing a very strong advantage. We can now change the subscription over the air. No need anymore to send somebody to physically exchange the SIM card on the device when the fleet manager or the customer decide to switch to another network operator. But there is always a but. Whatever the targeted segments or application, there are major operational requirements which have to be considered with great care to enable and deploy such a solution. On the one hand, having the SIM soldered on the printed circuit board offers much more robust design compared to removable SIM. The removable SIM is quite sensitive to mechanical constraints such as vibration or rough weather conditions. On the other hand, the quality and reliability of the solution will then be among the most important factors to consider. Indeed, once the eSIM chip is deployed, it's nearly impossible to change it. Because the devices are also getting smaller and smaller, the well-known nano SIM and MFF2, also called QFN8 form factor, will soon become neither applicable nor appropriate. The same eSIM chip shall then be available in various packages to accommodate the most demanding integration. You can see here an Infineon eSIM chip that is 2 to 3 times smaller than a match head. And because the eSIM is storing the network keys and sometimes other secrets, in the case where the eSIM chip is also used as a secure element, the eSIM chip shall demonstrate its resistance to attacks. as per the common criteria EL4+ certification scheme. So selecting a GSMA eSIM compliant solution, which has been through interoperability testing, is also a must-have. This will favor a seamless integration and successful deployment. So this eSIM is then an approach that will see radical changes in the dynamics of the market and the way that connectivity services are contracted and managed. I will do a bit of recap of what is the classic SIM approach. So in case you missed that important information, today the cellular connectivity is possible thanks to the SIM cards, which are usually removable and that contains operator-specific data that allows the device to access the networks. When a customer or a fleet manager wants to connect to a mobile network, he first needs to contract with the operator. He will then receive as many SIM cards as devices and will have to insert all of them in order to get access to the cellular network. If later on the same customer wants to change the operator, the carrier, he will again have to contract with a new operator and replace the initial SIM cards by the new SIM, since you cannot change the data within the classic SIM card. Now, if the eSIM is soldered on the device, which is sometimes the case for M2M devices, the SIM replacement operation becomes quite difficult or even impossible. If we list the challenges or issues that enterprises are facing in the industrial use case for the current physical SIM approach, we have the cost, of course, linked to many factors such as the maintenance, supply chain management, and also the risk of theft of the SIM card. Beside the cost, there is also a continuous integration effort needed every time the SIM is replaced to ensure that all the device's models will work across multiple networks. The key point is that the current physical SIM model and approach is still largely designed for the consumer use case and does not really work in a B2B or even B2B2B model that requires connectivities in multiple geographies. So if we now have a look at what the eSIM is bringing. So SIM drumming, which was adapted to the eSIM concept. So how does that work? This is, at least on the paper, fairly simple. On the left-hand side, you see the eSIM component that is pre-provisioned during manufacture with a profile called a bootstrap profile, which is like any other carrier profile but allows the first connection to the network to later on download an operational profile from a chosen provider. Those providers are called MNO, so Mobile Network Operator A and Mobile Network Operator B in the drawing. The customer contracts a mobile network operator depending on its specific needs. It could be the coverage, countries of operation, data traffics, the airtime rate, and so on. When the device, which is equipped with an eSIM, switches on, it can signal to a backend server on which it was pre-registered. Then, the mobile network operator can download into every eSIM the profiles which were prepared for those specific hardware chips. This process may override the bootstrap profile. And again, as for classic SIM, at some time in the future, and if required, the customer may select a new mobile network operator and will just have to download a new profile on the same chip without having to physically replace the SIM card. So we clearly see here that the GSMA eSIM is a game changer. But, and there is always a but, the GSMA eSIM has some limitation again around the total cost of ownership. Some key elements such as the interoperability, the bootstrap profile coverage, and validity shall be considered with good care. The GSMA eSIM deployment still requires robust MNO commercial and technical relationship management. The integration effort is still multiplied depending on the number of mobile network operators and platforms. So to summarize, we can say that the GSMA eSIM addresses technology standards, but not the business models and operational challenges. With the GSMA eSIM, we make no real progress beyond the current eSIM standards, which leaves a lot of the global coordination and connectivity orchestration to the OEMs or to other integrators. On the left-hand side, we illustrate the existing limitations or challenges which remain with the eSIM. On the right, we see what the market is demanding to fully leverage the promise of the eSIM. The GSMA specification covers technical interworking, but assumes that business will take care of itself seamlessly. This is rarely the case, even within a silo or single territory deployment. On-demand connectivity means dynamically form local ecosystem of vendors and suppliers. The specification should provide time for the customer to choose their end ecosystem for deployment and not limit it. As an example, a device equipped with an eSIM having a profile from a provider A, landing in a country where the local connectivity is using another platform vendor, all those things will result in a high interconnect and setup cost, as well as a big lead time to get the two eSIM vendors to enable proper interworking system. Same thing with choosing one single connectivity provider. It will not provide optimized cost of coverage insurance across all the operators in a given country or region. Most customers are left with a half-baked option for global scale. There are still a lot of mobile network operators to invest in the technology and platform and just don't see the business case yet, while at the same time, the vendors, OEMs are claiming that they cannot change business model until volume reaches critical mass. These are required if the long tail of customers is to be addressed. This is where the numbers are, but also where segmentation and business taking care of itself are challenged. And this is no time for me to leave the stage to my colleague Tim from Data Communication.
Thank you, Olivier. So as Olivier just described, we see great promise that the eSIM technology standards provide, but more challenges remain for us to solve. And that is exactly what the cooperation between Infineon and Tata Communications is really looking to demonstrate, how different players in the ecosystem can collaborate and should collaborate to help solve some of the business model operational challenges that still exist to really drive the rapid adoption and achievement of the desired business outcomes that OEMs, that enterprises have when it comes to eSIM. Sometimes when a consumer is presented with a wide variety of choices, it can create deployment and management challenges, and that really is no different to the connectivity options that now become available under the eSIM. As Olivier talked about, the more markets that a OEM or enterprise wants to provide M2M or IoT solutions around the world, the more that management and operational challenges become magnified. And so what we are seeking to jointly deliver is a simpler, unified interface to manage connectivity at scale around the world, and building in that connectivity management capabilities down at the chip level so that connectivity testing validation is streamlined through the manufacturing and deployment process. From a connectivity management standpoint, this is what we at Tata Communications refer to our eSIM hub. And the eSIM hub leverages numerous mobile operator partnerships to deliver a variety of roaming and local connectivity, but do it in a way that eliminates the headaches of managing individual contracts, individual interconnects, different types of interoperability challenges associated with various subscription management or connectivity management platforms, as well as providing a centralized platform to manage eSIM subscriptions deployed around the world, as well as centralizing data and reporting. The vision of the eSIM is not purely a aggregation model, but it's really look at the ability to bring in multiple operator partnerships to deliver local connectivity, local support as required by the device OEMs, by the enterprise customers that are looking to use them. So this provides even greater flexibility and collaboration opportunities between the OEMs and mobile operators, while still leveraging that common centralized overlay management capability, inclusive of not only billing simplification, reporting consolidation, but also a common security approach to ensure that threats are mitigated across multiple levels, which I'll get into a little bit further in the presentation. So taking a look more deeply into the delivery workflow or delivery lifecycle for a connected object, we're really working together to try to help move the industry away from a predefined and closed ecosystem to one that is more dynamic and open and is set up to allow for multiple players, multiple partners to participate at different points in the life cycle. So we really look at our collaboration as just the foundation for a future way in which our collective partners, whether those are ones on the OEM side or those on the mobile operator side, can participate. So what we're looking to do is provide a variety of connectivity options earlier in the manufacturing process by providing an inbuilt eSIM connectivity operating system and management into the Infineon chip. We can enable different types of testing and validation across the different stages. Early on in the production cycle, this can be done using the bootstrap connectivity, which typically comes with a set amount of allocated connectivity to allow for different types of testing, configuration, really with the goal to identify issues as early as possible to avoid costly aftermarket fixes, changes, swap outs that Olivier alluded to earlier. In addition, the hub approach can provide connectivity across different stages as you move into the local access connectivity, which again can be multiple options in different countries across different use cases, that allows for a more streamlined approach to getting devices deployed, distributed, and then managed at scale in the field across the globe. So what Infineon and Tata Communications are really looking at doing in more detail is taking advantage and building on the standards to ensure that the Infineon-powered eSIM at the chip level is compliant with GSMA eSIM RSP standards, along with other standards, guidelines that you see identified here, whether that's ETSI, 3GPP, etc. But then combining it with Tata Communications connectivity management capabilities and partnerships with local operators around the world. As I mentioned before, our goal really is to streamline the production, distribution, and deployment process so that our OEM customers and mobile operator partners can more rapidly leverage and take advantage of the power of the eSIM. And ultimately, what we want to do is accelerate the return on investment of our various partners by making connectivity plug and play so that really our respective customers can focus on achieving their defined business objectives from the various global IoT deployments. We see great potential in the eSIM, but believe much more is required to transition from the technology standards we have to a more innovative and collaborative business approach across the eSIM to take full advantage and deliver on the promise and the opportunities associated with global end-to-end deployments around the world. So what we've done, again, referring to our stated goal of simplifying the connectivity management aspect of IoT so that devices become born connected, we're leveraging our respective joint capabilities to deliver an improved solution. This joint cooperation takes advantage of Infineon's expertise to deliver eSIM operating and connectivity management systems down at the hardware level. It also takes advantage of our respective ecosystem partners from a equipment manufacturing distribution side as well as the mobile operators. And it builds on Tata Communications' legacy of providing cross-border information and communications technology solutions to multinational enterprises and service providers. Together, we're building a scalable platform with a dynamic ecosystem to create reference designs for repeatable and rapid service delivery. While I haven't touched on security much in the prior slides, Olivier did talk about it, and want to spend a little bit of time here to talk about the value of the combined solution to present various layers of threat mitigation against a variety of security threats that can happen in the IoT space by providing capabilities around security at the device level, at the authentication level, and at the data transport level. So it provides an enhanced security via a multi-layered approach to providing protection and risk mitigation for our OEM customers. Looking at a few customer use cases, the first one is in the wearable space. We actually have a variety of customer use cases within wearables, from elderly care, children's safety, worker safety, and in this particular example around fitness tracker. So really what our customer was looking for was a a simplified solution for global cellular access, looking for a simple invoice across multiple operator connectivity, but also having flexible billing options to be able to add different types of connectivity solutions tied with their device sale and offer. So what we worked with them to do is to launch an eSIM so that they can offer their solution in a number of countries around the world, and try to streamline the challenges around managing local connectivity, local services in those different markets. So what we're really working to do is create a simplified bill of materials and common reference time designed to streamline the operational processes, gain operational efficiencies, as well as reduce and simplify supply chain management, especially when it comes to mobile access. The end result for the customer is a faster, more cost-effective launch in multiple markets around the world. So really around accelerated time to market at a lower cost to serve their new customers. Likewise, we do have solution opportunities in the B2B space. Again, the design optimization and ability to better test and validate proposed tracking fleet management solutions enables that more efficient and optimized production and deployment process. Once deployed, the various connectivity provider options within the eSIM hub give our customer the best combination of cost and network coverage that they look for, which is really critical when you start talking about connected objects, connected devices that are in motion, especially for vehicles that cross national boundaries. Lastly, when it comes to B2B, we also see many of our local mobile operator partners looking to move beyond providing cellular connectivity solely in the IoT space and really looking to build and provide broader end-to-end vertical solutions. So we're seeing benefits within our ecosystem to establish new channel partnerships and approaches. So this means that not only can an asset tracking OEM take advantage of the Infineon and Tata Communications partnerships to deploy at scale and build in connectivity as part of their solution, they can also work with our local operator partners who can serve as a go-to-market partner in that operator's respective market. So there's a variety of channel approaches and go-to-market partnerships that can be developed leveraging some of the eSIM capabilities and the connectivity management platform that we're looking to provide. In conclusion, together we see great opportunities and great promise from eSIM. Right now, the standards largely address the technical evolution and requirements for interoperability and interworking. We believe much more is required in terms of collaboration across the industry, across the ecosystem for business model innovation. And Infineon and Tata Communications are working hard to quickly realize the potential for eSIM to help the industry deliver born connected devices in a streamlined and affordable manner.
Okay, well, thank you to Olivier and Tim for that presentation, and welcome everybody. I'm Michael Carroll from Mobile World Live, and I understand that you couldn't hear me at the beginning, which was my fault, so my apologies for that. But Tim, Olivier, you picked up the baton very well. And thank you everybody for submitting questions. So far we've got quite a few to get through. If you haven't asked a question yet, feel free to do so. You'll find a box just underneath the main presentation that you can do that. Tim, Olivier, I'm going to start with, we have a question. What is your view on the type of eSIM which markets will adopt? Is it pre-provisioned multiple IMSI cards, EUICC cards, cards that the customers are free to use, any service provider, but is that costlier than normal multiple profile eSIM cards?
Okay, so it's Olivier. I can try to start answering that one, even if I'm more on the hardware or the chip front. The thing is that this eSIM, so the EUICC as defined by the GSMA, could be used as a mean to change the profile to a new one whenever the device is crossing a border or whenever the contract ends. But in some cases, you may just see that as a kind of insurance purpose. There is no obligation to start with a bootstrap profile and then change it when the device switches on. You could eventually use an operational ready profile preloaded on the hardware that will act as a bootstrap. If ever during the product lifetime you need to change to another profile. But you could stay with this exact same profile for the whole product lifespan. And this eSIM then is just there for insurance purpose. And same things could be done with a preloaded profile that is also a multi-IMSI profile. So I would say that the eSIM does not prevent to start with a kind of a classical SIM approach or multi-IMSI SIM approach, and the cost associated to the eSIMs, if you do not have, let's say, profile, download, enablement, disablement every other night, the cost will be quite similar to a classic SIM. But it brings the insurance on top of that and the flexibility to switch the mobile network operator if ever it's needed. So it's just more benefit than with classical SIM. And again, the cost could be optimized by starting with a profile that is operational ready, or having a bootstrap profile that will give you a nice coverage on many territories, so you don't have to switch to many different profiles. And on top of that, there is the inventory management. If you are an OEM that you want to solder an eSIM on the device, starting with a classic SIM, having contract with any MNOs in different countries, you will have to maintain different SKUs. Here, with one SKU, you can address different regions and markets. And I see here some benefits and the cost compared to sending somebody to physically exchange the SIM card on a device and a sensor that is in the roof or into the basement will cost a lot compared to the initial cost of the additional memory needed on the chip hardware.
Okay, thank you, Olivier. The next question that we've received is it's a good one. Why can't I just deploy a soft SIM approach for over-the-air updates and ease of deployment? Why would I need an eSIM?
Okay, so Olivier again. So if you are thinking of a software SIM, actually it looks at the first sight more simple, but it adds some complexity and cost on the OEMs again. You will still have to load the initial bootstrap credential together with the SIM operating system and the security keys or certificate or network keys. Moreover, there are many carriers which will not accept to put their credentials in a software SIM for security reasons. Such an approach will then significantly reduce the scope of potential carriers partners that you want to bring on your device. And software security is better than nothing, but it is still subject to many attacks. Hackers can decompile the binary, find vulnerabilities, develop exploits. That was, by the way, the case for the Jeep Cherokee attack. And if your firmware gets infected, recovery may be impossible. So I believe hardware security is the best. And with certified hardware security, you're protected against most reverse engineering techniques. All cryptographic keys or critical data are stored in a chip that is tamper resistant. And to attack such a system, the attacker needs to have quite of graduate level hardware tools that cost a lot of money. And even then, breaking one chip will not let you break other chips, unlike a software attack, which is usually easy to replicate. And I would also say that the hardware-based eSIM is platform independent. If you have a software solution integrated on a specific system on chip or application processor, you will create a locking. Porting that functionality to a new platform will take a huge effort and often goes wrong in terms of security. So to conclude, I strongly believe that hardware-based security provide a secure foundation for a rich set of functionalities that can be implemented on top of that.
Okay, thank you, Olivier. I think you may have actually neatly touched on a little bit on our next question, which is that almost all major operators, for example, Vodafone, Docomo, AT&T, have their own IoT platforms with an eSIM solution in it. So how is your approach, you and Tata Communications approach, different from sort of those and platforms from Sierra Wireless, Cisco, Jasper, and so on? And also tied in with that is, can you provide a bit of clarity on the business model with regards to who is actually providing the solution, who's in control, and so on?
Sure. So this is Tim. I'll take this one. Firstly, for anyone who spends some time within the operator or carrier community, quickly realizes that there's a wide variety of cooperation and competition amongst different partners. So in some ways, those operators that are offering capabilities may also use certain functionality, certain reach, certain coverage from one another. So all of those are solutions are good and sound in their own right. What we're focused on is a couple of elements, which is really trying to put the control in terms of visibility, capabilities around managing the connectivity, getting data from the connectivity in the hands of our customers. Within Infineon, we're largely focused on OEM and the enterprise market, so really trying to expose connectivity management, visibility information into the hands of our OEM customers. That may mean, going back to Olivier's response, we are providing a multi-IMSI profile. That may also mean that we're providing the platform for our customers to utilize a local profile of a mobile operator partner. I think what's really key for OEMs, enterprises, as well as operators to think about when they're looking at different ways in which to provide eSIM solutions or leverage eSIM capabilities is to understand the flexibility that the solution provides in terms of being able to work across a variety of different players, whether that's the different connectivity management platforms, whether it's different subscription management platforms, as well as working across different local operators around. And not only thinking about that flexibility for themselves at account level, but also thinking about it down to different use cases. We've certainly seen, for example, with the automotive sector, that one solution may work when it comes to eSIM connectivity profile for telematics, for software over-the-air updates that may not work for the in-car navigation or in-car infotainment for the passengers. So really the critical decision are who are some of the different partners that an operator or an IoT connectivity platform can bring to bear to provide greater synergies and streamline the process, and what is the type of flexibility in terms of visibility and control that the end customer has to give you freedom to really manage your business to achieve the desired outcomes you're looking for.
Great, Tim. And just to sort of clarify, you mentioned interoperability there. So is the eSIM hub interoperable with SIM vendor subscription management platforms, or does it replace them?
No, it works across the leading SIM vendor subscription management platforms. So we are actively engaged and working with a variety of SIM vendor subscription management platforms to have them be a part of the eSIM hub.
Okay, great. This is perhaps one for both of you. How do you envisage the operational opportunity for MVNOs to take advantage of eSIM? MVNOs that own their own eSIM provisioning system might not be feasible for all, or maybe only for full MVNOs. And as part of that, how do you avoid having to depend on just one mobile network operator?
I can take that, Olivier, if you'd like, or at least I'll start, and then you can build on it. And we certainly see MVNOs fulfilling a very useful role in the market. They can be really morph into more IoT vertical solution providers. There are some fairly well-known MVNOs out there that have targeted specific industries like the automotive or have done well in other categories, working with some of the more consumer OEMs like Apple, like Microsoft Surface. So there is quite a bit of opportunity for them. It really depends on how much control that the MVNO is looking to have. Certainly, with the eSIM, it is quite possible to serve as a lighter MVNO and really just provide aggregate connectivity options and limited capabilities like you would do today in the classic eSIM model, where you're selling or reselling a variety of operator branded SIMs. Some of the things that Tata Communications is looking at more on the heavier MVNO is acquiring greater capabilities in terms of subscriber and policy management that we can then pass on to our enterprise customers, so that while they don't necessarily think of themselves as a heavy MVNO, they have whatever level of control around their subscription as they desire to provide connectivity as a component to their connected device or connected solution.
Okay, and Olivia, do you want to add to that? Or?
No, nothing
okay.
to add.
Okay. During the presentation, you mentioned moves to make it simpler in terms of adoption for customers and enterprise and OEMs by offering unified management portals. But what sort of key complexities still exist behind the scenes that Tata still has to overcome in order to enable and ensure your customers that about eSIMs rather, and how much of an overhead, cost and resource do these pose?
Well, I think some of the challenges we're seeing is really the interplay between the devices Many times it could be the modems in the modules and the connectivity options that are available. So really what we're trying to address is how to solve that sooner in the process rather than later, particularly with the collaboration between Infineon and Tata is having that connectivity options to do a variety of testing, validation, certification as required earlier in the manufacturing process to avoid hiccups down the road that can shut down production cycles, can shut down production lines, and ultimately create a reference design that is much easier for OEMs and ODMs to adopt, so that when they deploy or when that connected object makes its way through the distribution and ultimately to deployment, that the being able to connect, being able to authenticate the device, register it to whatever backend application you have, and be able to transmit the valuable information that the device is collecting and passing on, which ultimately is driving the majority of the business case around most connected objects. That's really what we're trying to solve. I don't want to downplay the security aspect of it, because again, not only are we looking to streamline the deployment and distribution process, we're working together to do it in a way that provides that multi-layered security. So you're not necessarily giving up security capabilities in an effort for expediency, really looking at a combined, more efficient approach, but done in a way that provides the multi-layered security required to management different types of threats that are coming into play in the IoT space. Okay, and how would the next question is how do the different ecosystems coexist? And the sort of rightly referenced the fact that Apple's got a program itself, Google with the Pixel 3, potentially broadening that out to Android devices. So where does the hub that you've talked about fit in the broader ecosystem?
So I can maybe start to answer, and then Tim, you may continue. So first, as we speak, we currently have two different solutions defined by the GSMA for the eSIM. There is the consumer specification, that is the one used today by the Google and Apple of that world, that are tailored for consumer devices where the user will select the connectivity provider. And on the other hand, we have the eSIM GSMA spec for the M2M devices, where it's more a fleet manager that will take care of which connectivity provider you want to bring. And for me, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but for me the eSIM hub is primarily targeting this M2M specification, and it's in the future the GSMA may release a specification that is offering a convergence of those two different worlds on the same software, meaning the same hardware can do both consumer and M2M. But today, when Infineon is delivering eSIM to the industry, to an OEM, it's either a consumer SIM card or an M2M SIM card. Then the convergence could come on the backend system, but the hardware today are different. And I mean, the hardware component could be the same, but at least the operating system are different. And an M2M device, an M2M eSIM has to be pre-provisioned with the default profile that we called previously the bootstrap profile. While for the consumer, it could be installed on the device with no preloaded profile. And the first download of the profile could be done over the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or even wireline. So two different, let's say, product references.
And adding on to Olivier's answer, I think, you know, there's always going to be a variety of different ecosystems. The very large OEMs, the well-known consumer brands like Apple, Google, in the device space, certainly have their own ecosystems. As Olivier mentioned, our primary focus is on the enterprise side, so a little bit more of a priority centered on the M2M eSIM specifications, although we do have some MVNO customers that we're working with to support them in terms of the consumer eSIM specs and support. And I think as you start to look at the different ways in which it plays out, you can certainly see that maybe the Microsoft efforts is a little bit better example, right? As they start working around the always connected PC capabilities with the Surface and other devices. Some of that will focus on individual consumers having the ability to choose different types of connectivity options, but you can also see an enterprise play for the enterprise that are providing those as the next generation of personal computers for the employee base. So in that case is ultimately the individual employee making decision, likely not. It's likely the enterprise that is making decisions around the connectivity needs to work together. So I think you'll see a lot of overlapping ecosystems, particularly as you start to look at the very large global OEMs, the very large IoT solution providers, whether that's operators, whether that's those on the device management side, and then a variety of enablers like Infineon on ourselves who want to work across and support many different types of partners within the various ecosystems.
Well, great. Olivier, Tim, that seems like a good place to wrap things up. Unfortunately, we haven't got through all of the questions, so if you have asked a question that we haven't managed to address, I know that Infineon and Tata and the JSMA will do their best over the next few days to answer these offline. And thank you very, very much to everybody who's contributed questions. Have been very interesting and a really good presentation. Guys, it's been very good to hear on how to leverage embedded SIM standards evolution to revolutionize business models. Thank you to yourselves and to all of the audience for tuning in and the interaction. A replay of the presentation will also be available shortly, so if you missed any of the content, you'll be able to catch up. And of course, you can always contact Infineon and Tata Communications directly through their website. So thank you once again to our speakers and to the audience for all of your participation. Goodbye.